Well, hello. Hi. Welcome on in. Okay, welcome to the second in a three-part series here at Codes of Harmony. Please only take what resonates, leave what does not. By that, it means that if it feels true to you in your soul, in your spirit, in your intuition, human, real life intuition, if it feels true to you, then it may and most likely is something of benefit to you. So this series is about being a medium, seeing dead people, sensing dead people, hearing dead people, um, channeling messages from, and sometimes even to souls who have crossed over. And I just repeat that, oh, let me fix that up for you. That this message is not going to be for everyone to hear at this point, whether that is in your quote unquote spiritual journey or in your life path if you do not see yourself as being spiritual, even though I really think that's a frame of thinking. Okay, so if you do resonate with this video, you might want to check out the live I did yesterday, which is only literally like a 5-minute piece that started this series called I Hear Dead Folks and It's a Lot. And that was me just wanting to communicate with the collective of mediums that there has been a major shift and increase in our/your mediumship abilities and your connection to spirits, to ghosts, to trapped souls, which seems to be my specialty. It's coming to mind to bring to focus where you feel drawn to go, because that may be connected to the mediumship work that you're doing. So this video is titled I Sense Dead Folks, Maybe You Do Too. And there is a very high likelihood if you're watching this video and you feel like these messages are for you or some of these things sound familiar to you, you most probably have some level of mediumship, whether you're aware of that or not. I've got a little list of things that can be very clear indicators that you have spirits around you or that spirits are trying to communicate with you. This is not the full list. This is not the best list. And there is so much incredible information about working with spirits and being a medium on the internet. The abbreviated and very simplified that I have here today is called Signs There Are Spirits Around You. Skull emoji, heart emoji, flower emoji. Yes, welcome to my world of symbolism and language unseen. Okay, so number 1, interrupted sleep as you sleep. So obviously it goes without saying this can also be other things such as astral projection, such as actual people in the place that you're trying to sleep, and of course a varying of health stuff or disabilities that you may or may not have. But being interrupted in sleep, particularly when you're like in that space in between being awake and being asleep, and you may see a figure standing over your bed. You may, they love doorways particularly. So if you sense somebody standing in the doorway and then you go to flick on your light or open your eyes, like consciously sit up to see who's in the doorway and there's no one there, there is a chance that that is a spirit. And it goes out saying, like, if you in your logical brain have a really big issue with acknowledging that there is a connection between the living and the dead, then this video may be somewhat triggering to you. Number 2, sudden changes in temperature. This is something that has been well documented for like a very long time, very, very long time, from the very beginnings of people researching into paranormal activity, since the first seances that ever took place, documented in the West world, as well as in the history of shamanism in so many different cultures across the world, where there is always a chance that there is a spirit that will come forward in a meditation circle, in temples, in churches, in places that have really almost like their highways for. I might make a separate video about. Wow. Okay, so now, yeah, there's a lot of energy coming forward. Please only take what resonates, leave what does not. The third thing I have listed is things falling or moving by themselves. So this can be described as poltergeists, and there's lots of different theories for what poltergeists are and what they mean, and what actually causes them. One of the very clear ones is that sometimes, not always, but sometimes this is a ghost. This is a spirit trying to communicate with you. This is also something that some mediums, some oracles that work with the dead, as well as medicine people, shamans, even healing workers that can sense spirits, they sometimes talk about this as like the thing that led them to having clearer evidence, having witnesses to hearing these noises or seeing these things move by themselves. So you could be like, oh, I literally just sat that there on that counter in that particular place, walked out of the room, went out of the house or the apartment, came back in, and that thing has moved. You also may see, like, when you're actually when you're very like open, energetically open, you may be in another room and you will hear something fall, and you will go into that other room, and there might be, particularly they love breaking glass. Like, that's one of the, or a lot of the spirits that I've worked with and come into contact with, they love breaking glass. And this is interesting because you can look at spirits as being like 3 different, if you really spirits. There's ones that are quote unquote good spirits, friendly, benevolent, positive energy, high vibe spirits. Then there are ones that people often say have died in a horrific way, or basically crossed over in a state of distress, whether that is anger, sadness. And so you have to be really careful. If you are somebody that senses spirits, you need to be very aware and careful of actually feeling and taking on these feelings. And so, before I consciously understood what it was to be a medium, through my whole life, and you may have this experience too, through my whole life, I have had very sudden feelings that I knew on some level were not my own feelings. Of course, this is actually very beneficial as a medium, as a tarot reader, as an oracle, and this is definitely something, rejecting all projections, thank you. This is something that is my craft, is my skill that I work with, but before I actually knew and proudly claimed my mediumship skills, well, not, I don't know if it was proudly to start with, that might be an overstatement. You do need to develop your own spiritual discernment when it comes to identifying it. It is helpful if you can actually identify that a spirit is around you, particularly if it is that second spirit type of spirit that I mentioned that is holding a lot of anger, regret. I almost like regret or wanted to come out before saying anger. That might be symbolic for some of you. And the two are very interlinked, particularly in the spirit world, particularly in the spirit realm. And then the third type of spirit, and this is really an abbreviation, this is very much like an abbreviation, is the trapped soul. Okay, so these are spirits that are what has been referred to by many spiritualists, many writers, many philosophers, even academics, as being. And these are souls that are usually going to want to work with you to get out of that limbo, to move out of that limbo state. And so there are different theories and philosophies around how and why a soul would get trapped. You know, the old school way of looking at it is like whether they're going to go to heaven or hell, or stay in a limbo state, which is being trapped. And then other people talk about souls and spirits being trapped in particular locations, particularly locations where they died, particularly locations that have a lot of energy, hold a lot of importance to the story of that soul. This crosses over cultural things like places like massacres, places like significant sacred sites that have been tampered with. This will also occur when there has been violent, harmful things. And so the soul, the spirit of this third type of spirit that we're talking about, this third type of ghost, is seeking justice, is wanting there to be some kind of justice in order to leave that place. Okay, I should probably make an actual separate video about location work as a medium. By the way, screen is paranormal noir or film noir. There's energy here. Image film still from a movie called Cat People, and I thought that was kind of cute, a little like ode to the intuition and the powers of cats. And sometimes that heightened intuition gets compared or connected to, and of course there is like mythology around black cats and luck and fate, and also cats as mediums for magic people, which is only at this channel. Thank you very much. Okay. So yeah, things moving by themselves. This is a sign that there might be spirits around you. The fourth sign there may be spirits around you or wanting to work with you or in your home, in your space, wherever this is occurring, is animals behaving as if something is different or like someone is in the space with you who is not. So animals, which is interesting that I just thought to talk about the poster image from Cat People. I believe maybe that was in the 60s or 50s that was made. The animals can see and sense spirits in a way that we cannot. And so if you have like a dog or a cat, for example, who starts acting very weird in one location in your office or wherever, or in the yard, whatever, that can potentially, and obviously there are other logical things to explain it. That is not the purpose of this video or the work that I am doing here with you today. I'm just saying that there is a possibility, and particularly if you resonate with this and the things I'm listing here, if you say yes to it, more than one of the things that I'm listing here, there is a that animal is reacting to a spirit or a location that is connected to a soul that is either in limbo or is a benevolent, loving, healing spirit that is trying to help you in your life. It's one of the souls that died in anger, regret, sadness, the heavier emotions, right? Okay. This is like, I thought this would be shorter than it is. And so funny when people click on and they don't like get to see my face or my flesh, and so they click off. I just think that's really interesting. I just watched this great video about how YouTube has changed. Anyways, back to the topic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5. Electricity is suddenly switching on or off. So this is very well known and has been in a lot of films. A lot of people will say that lights flicker on and off when there is a spirit around. And often this is a representation, like depending on when it happens, how it happens, what has just been said, what is occurring. Also, if there's something like a storm or, like anything that could potentially hold any kind of risk or danger or disturbance, if lights flicker at that time, that is very different to like if you're having like a cute moment with a family member and the lights flicker when your favorite Christmas carol comes on. You can kind of work out the state and the communication that the spirit is trying to express to you based on these things, the factors that happen when the light is flicking on or off. Electricity is also interesting, that this is a big sign. This is a very huge, like, I want to say neon sign that there is a spirit or a ghost around you because of electricity and the connection with electromagnetic fields and the connection with plasma and life force. And so, we talk about, and it's whether you identify as spiritual or not, part of the spiritual community or not, you can understand and you can identify and probably have heard someone talk about the idea of our souls being energy, and that our vessels, our humanly flesh forms, are holding this energy. And so the ongoing question of what happens after death is connected to what happens to that energy. Where does that energy go? And that is plasma, that is life force, that is I can't explain that as good as some other incredible people. And as you know, I don't use notes as good as I should or as much as I should. I'm looking at bringing together my organic, some would say chaotic way of channeling with information and notes, doing that gently and seeing how it goes. Okay, so number 6 is tapping, or what does that say? Tapping or knocking sounds that cannot be explained. So this has been well documented in lots of paranormal research, going back like as far as the 30s, I believe, maybe even before that, and is about like, it's like, like for example, if you're in a hotel room and you're making too much noise, doing whatever you're doing, and then next door someone will knock to like whether it's on purpose or not, they will knock on the wall to let you know that you're making too much noise, right? That's like an old code. And it's kind of like that, but instead of it being somebody in a hotel room next to you living, it is a spirit communicating with you. And it's like, here I could talk about so many things. I'm going to try and keep it as focused as possible. And it does kind of connect to the third thing I listed, which is about things moving by themselves. So spirits can create energy. Spirits still have the ability to move energy, still have a kinetic energy within them, but it's almost like that exists in a different realm. And if they are in the presence of, or know that you are gifted with mediumship skills, which if you're resonating with this video, you do have mediumship skills, or you're connected to somebody who does, they will try and communicate with you in ways that it's like, how do I explain it? They can cause effects. They can create energetic movement. That crosses over the borderlines between dimensions. It crosses over between the physical, the 3D reality, the third dimension reality, and beyond. And so you can hear the effects of that. I don't know if that even makes that much sense, but I'll just keep going through this list of things. Signs there are spirits around you, or signs you have ghosts around you. Okay. So yeah, tapping and knocking sounds that cannot be explained. The next thing I have listed is suddenly having a song in your head that has no significance to you, or you do not particularly like or know. So it's often this, from my experiences and from some of the other mediums that I have researched, often it'll be an old song or a song that is like very known in the populace that I don't actually personally know. So like I'll just be doing something, I'll just be going about my day, I'll just be moving through a space, and this is happening increasingly to me, like to the point that my mediumship skills are so high, so heightened, and have just jumped at such a level that some days I do not feel like going out into the world and exposing myself to the amount of different spirits and dead folks that are trying to communicate with me, particularly at this important juncture in the human collective journey. So yeah, I'll just be going about my day, and then all of a sudden I will find myself like humming or singing a tune of a song that maybe I've heard once, maybe I've heard on the radio and I switch it off, or maybe this has happened a few times, I've never ever heard this song before. So you might experience that you suddenly are reciting lyrics to a song that you do not know, and then you'll research and look into those lyrics, and you'll find out it's a song from the 1950s. And then you go, oh, that's so interesting, because I was visiting Mary Lou, who lives in a house that was built in the 1950s. Oh, and let me look further into that. And you may or may not come across that there was a incident connected to that property or location. And then there are other people that talk about mediums actually, like spirits attaching themselves to actual people, not locations. And that's something that is very rare, but it does happen. It usually happens when somebody has a very heightened connection with the other side. And often those people have had great losses connected to death in their life. Often it'll be you've had those experiences when you're much younger, and then for a myriad of reasons, you have shut down that part of your psychic gifts. And what's happening at the moment is we are having a sudden increase in everyone's connection with spirits, with ghosts. Yeah, so if it's a song that you don't like and you're suddenly singing it, that may be a message from a spirit. It may just be as simple as that was that spirit's favorite song, or it's connected to a particular date. Like I remember once a spirit started singing a song to me that I didn't really know or recognize, and then he explained to me that was connected to his wedding song, right? And it's interesting because then you also have to, when you do this work, these gifts, when you allow the flow of communication between the living and the dead, it's just so clear and evident that spirits have feelings, have emotions, they have triggers, they have regrets, they have trauma, they have bliss, they have joy, they have all the same things that we have as living beings, only all of ours are connected to a timeline, and theirs is very abstractly out of place and out of time. Yeah. Okay. And I've just got two more things listed. And like I said, this is an abbreviated, definitely an abbreviated list of signs. There may be spirits around you, or you are a medium, a natural medium. The second last thing I have listed is you see orbs or sparkles in the air. This can be spoken about as prana, but as I just covered before, if you are following along here, prana is energy, yeah? So spirits and ghosts still have energy. In fact, you might even look at it like they not only have the energy that they had in this life, in this incarnation, or in their last incarnation, but they also have other energies that are connected to the underworld, connected to the upper realms, the ethereal, the ether. So it also means that most spirits understand things on a level and a depth that they did not when they were alive. This is not always the case for the third type of ghost that I mentioned, that is holding anger, resentment, all those darker, heavier feelings and emotions, particularly if they died in a horrific way or an unjust way. And there's very much like this mediumship code of practice around like, why do we do this work? Because it's not always valued, it's not always paid for, it's not always like actually respected. It is so often you are bringing peace, you are bringing liberation, you are bringing justice to a soul, or a sometimes I just like almost like a whole bloodline of souls or spirits. This is particularly the case if you travel a lot, or you're a traveler, which I think some people I'm talking to here are. Yeah, so seeing sparkles in the air, seeing orbs. There is so much information about orbs that you can look into, and definitely like there is a lot of people that talk about orbs as angels, as angelic frequencies. So this can be the list of angels that we know, such as Michael, Gabriel, etc., etc. But this also for some people comes through very clearly at particular times and particular places. That is clearly communication from somebody they have known or loved who is on the other side. So people particularly see orbs when there is high frequencies of music, of performance, of theatre, of play, of celebration, like birthday parties, etc., etc., as well as places of burial, such as grave sites. That feels like a whole nother chapter I could go into. But yeah, if like particularly if you see orbs and sparkles in the air, look into what prana is and understand how prana can be a representation of spirits being around you. And then the final thing that I'll mention today is messages from unknown people suddenly come into your mind. That is, I feel like maybe an oversimplification, or you might be like, duh, Fred, obviously that's what mediumship is. But it can be confusing, and it can, particularly if you are in a conversation with somebody else, particularly if you're in the depths of thinking about something else, you can accidentally associate it with people that are around you, things that are happening in your life, things that you're researching, things that you're studying, things that you're creating, or things that are going to happen in the future. Yeah. And it's funny, like I will mention there is always this sense of, or I experience, and I think a lot of mediums do, experience this sense of duty and this sense of responsibility to help a soul that is entrusting you with communication from the other side. Okay, so, yeah, I sense dead folks, and maybe you do too. I hope this has been beneficial and finds you where it needs to in order to help you embrace, feel better about, understand, as well as create healthy, safe spiritual boundaries when it comes to sensing those that have crossed to the other side. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So much love from Codes of Harmony.